Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to part 3 of the 30 Days of No Time to Die. Today we're looking at the second half of the pre-title sequence. My name's Tom Sears, and I'm joined as usual by my brother from another mother, Mr. Chris Wright. How you doing, bub?
Very well.
I called you Buv there. I don't even know if that's a word. How you doing, Buv?
I don't know, Buv.
I meant to say bruv, but it came out wrong.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
bruv. We
Yes.
ended with an explosion last time, didn't we, at Vesper's graveside? And now the action kicks in, man. So talk to me. What are your feelings?
So I do like that Bond is pretty fucked up by this explosion. So we mentioned before, you know, his ears are ringing, the sound kind of goes a bit deadened, everything's not quite right. You can tell he's stumbling a bit. He doesn't quite know. He gets his phone out. I think he tries to call Madeleine, does he, or something, or and it doesn't quite work. And he's sort of stumbling around, and he gets to that point where he thinks, oh, you know, the bells you can hear the bell ringing, I think, and then he's sort of trying to get to Madeleine because so he could either be thinking two things at this point. He could either be thinking, is Madeleine behind this, or he could even be thinking, shit, Madeleine's in danger. Either way, he sort of tries to leg it back, and then he sees that little kid, doesn't he, the one that sort of showed him where the grave was, and the kid is running, which is obviously a bit weird. Bond runs after him onto that bridge, and the kid kind of stops and turns and gives him a sly smile as this Alfa Romeo rocks up behind him. Sorry, Maserati Quattroporte rocks up behind him. And then you get the motorbike as well. And I do like that very first bit where the Maserati is driving towards him and along the bridge, there are those sort of, the stone blocks, and he drops behind and the car just hits it and obviously just misses him, goes up the other side, and then that's when the bike shows up, so he's sort of cornered on both sides. And then this is a point where I'm guessing it is on every trailer because I've seen the trailers now, but I had sort of seen a still of this, so I did kind of know this was going to happen at some point. But you get the bit where the car's driving towards him, you know, they're firing at him, the motorbike firing at him, and then he grabs one of those sort of cables or ropes from the bridge and leaps over. And I like the way that he does it sort of almost one-handed. Opens up his arm so he's almost sort of flying, and then as he's coming down, he grabs the rope together, and then obviously he slams against the wall, and it's just that height where he drops down. I think that's a really cool little stunt. What's your feeling on this one?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think he thinks it's Madeleine yet until Primo goes, she is a daughter of Spectre.
That's right, so he's thinking that basically Madeleine's in danger, isn't he? That's why he wants to get to her ASAP.
I think that's what his motivation is there. But yeah, I do that little stunt where he jumps behind the little bricky bit.
That's cool.
Is so great, man. That's timed to absolute perfection. It just like when you think of how close those wheels are to him, and he's all in a ball. That's wicked. That's a trailer moment stunt, wasn't it? That was like a feature thing.
Rightly so as well. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the Daniel Craig Bonds. We've never had a sneaky Bond one, or we've never had like a Daylights or a GoldenEye or a Goldfinger type pre-titles. It's always a chase for Daniel, isn't it? It's whether it's a foot chase, a car chase, or something of that nature. And I guess we've got a bit of both this time, and a motorbike chase as well. So I suppose my first question to you is, what do you make of Primo?
Yeah, because I remember, I don't know if you said something or if I looked at you and he gave a certain look, but I remember you not being 100% sure about Primo initially. I think anyway, but I obviously so Bond's running away, the bike comes towards him, he almost sort of clotheslines him off the bike, which is pretty cool, and then they have a pretty hardcore fight, it's smashing them each other against the walls and punching, and then he tries to scramble him. He gets that sort of a clothesline or something and tries to basically strangle him, and that's pretty badass. I like that a lot, and you can see Primo struggling, and then he basically smashes his head against the wall, and then his eye pops out. And from earlier on when he's on the bike and he's driving along and he lifts up his sort of shades, you can kind of see something's not quite right with the eye, can't you?
That's it. When Bond does the jump off the bridge and he pulls up on the bike and he looks over the side, doesn't he? He's got this kind of look.
One eye's like twice the size of the other.
I don't know whether I like the Bionic Eye.
Because is this too comic booky for you? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it might be. Like for me, when I see that bit where he flips up his shades and he's just got this big eye poking out, to me,
that's good
that's
impression.
almost a bit Austin Powersy. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that it's a bionic eye. Not that the technology. I'm sure when you think of the things that are you can do now with technology, it's not like it's too far fetched in terms of. I'm sure you could Bluetooth into an eyeball these days. Do you know what I mean? And have a remote camera in an eyeball. I'm sure, when you think of, you send a drone up and you can beam the image back to your phone from however far away it is and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, it's an exaggerated form of that. But, I'm sure that the possibility of the technology exists. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I suppose I feel like Primo is a bit like I don't know whether he's ever referred to as Primo. I don't think I ever knew he was called Primo.
No, he's called Cyclops. Like obviously, Daniel said he is a Cyclops, but I can't remember if his name is called that.
But I certainly don't put him in the pantheon of great Bond henchmen. I think that's a bit much for.
Particularly if
I
it's
nearly
kind of
referred
Daniel's
to myself
type
as Daddy.
Bond.
Then that's a bad fucking habit I'm getting into. Jesus Christ! Yeah, no, it's a bit much for Daddy.
Daddy.
If people at home don't mind me doing that, I will continue to refer to myself as Daddy for the rest of the 30 days. So I don't know, but yeah, you're right. The fight is great. And then of course you have that moment where it sort of like pops out and it extends, doesn't it? And Bond gives it that like, what the fuck's that kind of look?
So here's a question for you. Do you think Spectre put out an ad looking for one-eyed henchmen that would be happy to have something put in their eye? Or was it the case where they had someone and basically did a bit of a Hinks job on it? Yeah. Maybe Hinks cut out his eyeball with his thumb screws. Yeah. Or obviously, that is one thing I am gutted about, just off the cuff slightly. I really liked Hinks in Spectre. He was one of the best things in it. I think that whole thing about him falling off a train, they could have easily brought him back. Yeah. Maybe even, I think we had spoke about this like ages ago, but if he had a neck brace or whatever, but even if he didn't, they could have brought him back, I think Hinks is too good a character and he could have had that added menace or even have him, but then kill him off or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
he could have been the Jaws of the current run.
Yeah.
I'd heard a rumor, like I had been told that he was in it, that he did show up, and I was told that he was in that Spectre. I'm
sure I did at some point.
Thing. So I was I was half expecting him to show up, but that was obviously bollocks. So I see obviously what they're doing with Primo, the one-eyed henchman with the bionic eye. To me, that's a bit. Either Austin Powers or James Bond Jr. even.
Yeah, I do see where you're coming, man. Yeah. And it would be interesting to see what the listeners think as well. I do see where you're coming. And there's also that, what do you think about the link? Because I know some people were like, well, how did Blofeld communicate with Spectre and everything like this? And the fact is, obviously, probably everyone knows who's listening now, but there were two bionic eyes. Blofeld had one in Belmarsh. And now Primo obviously has the other one, and that's how they communicated. There must be sort of speakers on there so they could hear what he's saying and like the video for him. Is that what you're looking?
I didn't pick up on that at all. I didn't realise Blofeld had another eye.
Yeah, because when you first see him, when he goes up to the camera, he has both eyes. And then later on, M tells Bond, well, first of all, he tells Nomi, to scan every part of him, scan his whole bloody body, whatever it is.
Of course he does, yeah.
And then later on, M says, we found and retrieved Blofeld's bionic eye.
Of course, and it even says, scanning Blofeld's bionic eye. When okay.
Exactly.
I missed that.
So that's how Blofeld was doing what he was doing from Belmarsh. But, and at least that's, because this is the thing that you mentioned previously. Blofeld shouldn't be incarcerated.
No.
He should have either, if he was, I know we had that idea ages ago, but he could have either escaped as part of a pre-titles and that was it, or he escaped even before the film. Yeah. Because this is exactly the kind of the difficulty that it sets up by having him incarcerated. And if you do, you're like, okay, so how possibly can he be Blofeld when he's, in a high security prison? Yeah. And so what are your options? Well, how is he going to communicate with someone? And it is difficult to think of many options. Obviously, this one was a bionic eye, which, I do think it's creative, but equally I can see where you're coming from in terms of the sort of bit Austin Powers-y comic book guy. Because if you did see that in an Austin Powers film, it wouldn't kind of throw you, would it? It'd be like, oh yeah. There's number 2 or Kingsman. Yeah, exactly, something like that. So I do see what you're coming from, but I still think he's quite a cool baddie in terms of, he is pretty badass and mean, but I do get where you're coming from with that, because when obviously the eye pops up, it rolls down and extends, and Bond is like, what's that? I think
should slightly digress. Blofeld should never have been captured at the end of Spectre. He should have got onto that bridge, and you didn't even need to show it. He gets to the helicopter, Blofeld's not there. Where the fuck is he? That should absolutely have been. You don't capture Blofeld, as far as I'm concerned. He's too good. He's too elusive.
Yeah.
But there you go. You got to do what you got to do.
The other thing is, if Bond, because obviously he sees the eye roll down and then he sort of nicks Primo's bike. But if Bond had just gone and stamped on that eye, that would have been it. Like, Blofeld wouldn't have been able to communicate with anyone, and then that would have been the end of his sort of power, so to speak. But so obviously next then he nicks a bike, and we got a bit of a
good jump,
a bit of a chase. Oh mate, I really did. and like when we watched it in the premiere, everyone went like that, and that was fantastic. So I liked it. There's a lot of obviously driving up sort of the stairs and stuff like that, the cobbled streets and everything. But yeah, that big leap over the top was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And he does another sort of smaller one just before that. So you got, people are chasing him in the cars. And I do like the part that we see Daniel is actually driving it for some of it. Whereas, some parts of the Spectre, the helicopter chase are pretty tight, and the motorbike, you could really see the face,
of the face
sort of,
CGI,
and here it was, when it was used, it looked seamless, or a lot better anyway. And also there are parts where Daniel was definitely driving it. And I do like when he sort of does that sort of, not skid, but kind of like a skid as he brakes to sort of stop, and the bike swerves a little bit. And I thought, that does look pretty cool. And he basically just dumps the bike on the side, and then obviously goes into that hotel, and the guy's like, your bags are here. Your wife's already said you'll be packed, she's packed to leave, sort of thing. And now it's obviously, well, we've forgot to mention, you mentioned it briefly, but obviously when he's fighting Primo and he's strangling him with a clothesline, she says, Madeleine is a daughter of Spectre, she's a daughter of Spectre. And then straight away Bond thinks, well, she was the one who told me to come here, so she must be the one that set me up. So he obviously goes in, and you can see when she's doing the lipstick, and it's Bond, just that sort of almost shadow silhouette of Bond in the background, and he's obviously beaten and bruised and everything like that, and that's quite cool. And then Madeleine sort of realises something isn't right, and then Bond comes in and basically grabs her and says, and threatens her and stuff like that. So what do you think of this sort of whole section here?
Yeah, it's he's all messed up. He goes very grunty, doesn't he? How did they know I was here? He goes a bit of that, doesn't he?
He does a bit, yeah.
And it's, if it would have been Connery, of old, he'd have probably chinned her, wouldn't he?
I think, they would have.
But you don't do that sort of thing anymore. No. So he gets a bit uppity with her, doesn't he? And I suppose that's the thing. This is the thing, the Blofeld manipulation, isn't it? Because now he's convinced no matter what she says, he ain't going to believe her. He bundles her downstairs. They get in the DB5. They set off, and then of course she gets the phone call from Blofeld, and it says whatever, well done.
The phone message, well done. You'll be your
the pride of Spectre or something.
We'll be proud or something like that. Yeah.
So of course, like total setup. Whatever she says at that point, one's not going to believe her. And then you have a really rad car chase, don't you? I really do enjoy this sequence.
That Aston has been souped up, tightened suspension, better steering. If it was an original DB5, it would be all over the place. But obviously, this is a great bit. I think there can't be any listener who didn't enjoy this chase. I think it's so good, and you get to see some really cool gadgets. Obviously, you got those sort of calthrops that are exploding as well. So it's almost a step up from the other ones that we used.
Is that what you call those things?
Yeah, okay. Calthrops, which kind of burst the tires, but these are explosive ones, which are really, really cool. Obviously, we'll get to another point in a minute where he's got the smoke and the guns, but there's a few little things, and I think it's just a really, really cool chase. But it gets to a scene which is, without a doubt, in the top 5 in the whole film for me, maybe even higher. I absolutely loved it. It's a bit where they kind of skid. when Madeleine is basically saying to, before we get to that point, there's a huge bit, isn't there, where Madeleine, they're basically being chased and shot at, and Madeleine says to Bond that there's something that she needs to tell him. He's probably, and he sort of says, I'm sure, he's probably thinking, well,
I bet there is.
I know
what he says.
Yeah, I bet there is. Yeah, I bet there is. Like, it's something about Spectre, but clearly it's obviously that we later find out it's about her pregnancy and stuff like that. So that's a massive thing. But Bond's obviously still thinking she's to do with Spectre. But that part where she's sort of speaking to him and they get smashed in the side by the Land Rover, and there's just the two cars and they're spun out. But then every little road, another car or van or bike or whatever rocks up and totally blocks their path. Everyone gets out with a gun, and they just start unloading like shit. Just boom, boom, boom. And this for me is probably, like, I love this scene so much. And Bond is in an utter rage and despair. He thinks that Madeleine has like completely betrayed him. Obviously, Vesper's betrayed him before, and he's gotten close to someone else, and now thinks the same thing has happened again. He can't believe her. She's saying, she hasn't done anything. It's not her. It's all Blofeld. She doesn't know why this is happening. He doesn't know what to do. While this is happening, every window in the DB5 is getting absolutely, like, it's just getting shot, all the glass. And that moment where Bond, he doesn't say anything, and she's like, do something. And then Primo gets out with his hardcore fucking rifle job and just starts hitting one part of the window. It's just like, boom, boom, boom. And you can just see the glass is cracking and cracking. And Bond, obviously, he knows how much time he's got, in a way, in terms of how long these windows are going to last. And he's so enraged. He's almost like, is he just going to let them get shot and killed? Because what's the point in living if the woman that he's loved has betrayed him and everything like this? And just that sound effect and the sheer sort of persistence and everything of the gunfire on the windows and the DB5. What a fucking legend of a car that windows are holding up to like this onslaught. And I think Daniel Craig acts his socks off in this scene, even though he hardly says anything. I bloody love it. But for me, easily one of the best scenes in the film. What's your thought of this sort of little moment?
I mean, this was another trailer moment, wasn't it, when he does the donuts?
I didn't see it in the trailer,
Well, you've seen it now, though, right? You've seen all the trailers. But yeah, that moment is great when he's just like point blank, almost up at the window, at the same point you just see it like inching away. It's like, damn, man, those are some strong winners. But
and Madeleine is like holding him, and you can see that look where she's looking up at him, and she's got snot coming down her nose, tears coming down her face, as if to say, "Look, it's not."
I tell you what, man,
it's not me.
She really impresses me in this film, man. She's
good,
brilliant in this. Like her performance is bang on the money. So obviously she's like, "Do something." He's like, "Okay." And then does the donuts and just completely.
That's great. Puts the smoke on, and those machine guns are fucking red. And there's that cool bit where you see the machine guns come out, and Primo is basically, I think, the only one to notice, and he starts legging it. Yeah. And then the DB5 doing the donuts. That's so cool.
Let me ask you a controversial question about this.
Oh, right? Okay.
Some people at home might be a little bit outraged even at the suggestion of this, but I think there's a good case for it. Is this right?
Yeah,
is
I'm
it
getting excited just
the
waiting.
finest hour of the DB5 on screen in any Bond film?
That is a bloody good question.
Because let's face it, right?
Yeah,
let's go back. Let's go back to Goldfinger.
Yeah,
we obviously have the chase, machine gun granny, all that kind of stuff.
Ejector seat.
We see him knock out some gadgets and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's previously the classic sort of iconic moment. You've got a little bit of it in Thunderball with the water jets, where it doesn't do a whole lot, really. Obviously, you've got the returning GoldenEye, great chase with Xenia, all that kind of stuff. And then you've got it every 5 minutes in the Daniel films, right? But it's like, I feel like this is the first time we've really seen the DB5 like really put through its paces with the gadgets used well and all that kind of stuff. I feel like there's a strong case for that. What do you think? Well,
if you're looking at the chase and the gadgets used, well, the DB5 has never been in a better chase. That's undeniable. Yeah. Just in terms of the actual chase and the driving, and the stunts that are done in terms of the donuts, the J-turns, everything like this, the drifts, the slides, the part where he goes down the narrow alley and it's sort of across the side of the DB5, all that sort of stuff. I don't think it's been bettered. It definitely hasn't. And then you add into that, like we're saying, like the smoke, the guns, the calthrops, everything like this. And I would be happy to say that is okay. The iconic one, obviously, Goldfinger is brilliant, but there's not so much. Obviously, there's a bit going through woods with the oil slick, the smoke screen, and then there's a bit obviously with the ejector seat, and then the sort of chase through Goldfinger, Auric Enterprises and stuff, which is really cool. But this is a proper hardcore chase, a modern hardcore chase, and then the way that it's used with the gadgets, this is my favourite scene involving a DB5.
I think
for me personally. What about you?
I think it is, man.
Do you think that's sacrilegious to some people to potentially
I think
say
because obviously Goldfinger is the one, isn't it? You know what I mean? Back in the day, of course it's kind of unfair to compare a film that's 60 years old,
definitely,
with something that's just come out. But yeah, man, I think that I kind of do think perhaps that's the DB5's finest hour, because you really see it put through its paces. And to be honest, I'll be honest with you, man, I do feel a bit DB5'd out these days, where it's like it's used every time. Whereas remember how special it was when it came back in GoldenEye, and how exciting it was to see Bond in one of those.
But we saw it again in Tomorrow Never Dies. Yeah. There's an image of it in The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah.
Obviously we've seen it through the Daniels. I think, I mean, this is the fact that he's got a DB5. Some people are saying, "Oh, well, this Daniel must be the same as the other Bonds because he's got a DB5." And
you nearly did the voice then, didn't you? This Daniel must be the same. Yeah, you thought better of it though. I saw you.
I kind of held back a bit, but and okay, there is that point, but I mean, that's a bit of a silly point, I think, in my mind. It's like his Bond has a DB5, and you see his Bond win it, and then obviously the whole how did he get the guns? Okay, Q converted it for him, whatever. But whatever happens with the next incarnation of Bond, I don't want to see an Aston Martin DB5. No. Don't want to see that whatsoever. I'd like a Bentley, or maybe a up-to-date Lotus, or a Rolls, as is other car. But probably a Bentley. I think a Bentley would be.
I've had a look
nice
at Lotuses, and I don't think they look that cool.
No, they're just not quite up to where they were as well.
And when you look at the Esprit in the 70s, that's such a perfect car for that time. Lotuses these days, definitely. I don't think they look that cool.
No.
So for me, I think I'm pretty sure it will probably still be Aston Martin because of all the deals,
All the deals, yeah.
I'm sure we'll see the next
one.
But
in which case, that's fine, because I do love Aston, and that's fine. But not the DB5. Yeah. Let's just give that a break for a long time. Because, I mean, the V8 from Living Daylights is a lovely car. Yeah. But again, let's leave the little nods, because you get some amazing, obviously, Nomi drives the Superleggera, didn't she, in this film, which is great. And if we are going to keep with Aston, that's fine. But let's just forget the DB5 for a while. I think.
If my vote meant anything, I would say let's switch over to Bentley for a while. For the next Bond, he's a Bentley man, just like he was in the books,
Yeah, and also he's got the modern Bentley, the Q branch equipped Bentley. But he's also got the old school one with the Bentley blowers from like proper old school one.
With the leather hat and goggles.
Maybe if it's like in a garage that he's restoring, something like that. But just that nod, he's got and you see the garage doors open, there's like the modern Q Bentley and then the old school one that he's kind of still tinkering with. That'd be bloody cool.
There's a dude who lives near me in Bath here who's got a Bentley, and it's like a newer one, and I could definitely see
looks all right, does it?
Yeah. I see it parked around near my place all the time, and I could definitely see Bond behind the wheel of one of those. But yeah, man, what a rad chase! And the donuts, that's a great moment, obviously. And then he kind of whoops off, and away they go. And then obviously he after that he puts on the train, isn't it? Am I right?
Yeah, so that's it. So basically, they managed to get away, drive to the train station. He basically drags her out. Going through and they cross, so he sort of hops across the tracks with her, doesn't he? He gets to the other side. Now this is an interesting moment. So for me, watching this where they're obviously this kind of hugging, and she says, "Is this the last time?" or something like that, and whatever. In my eyes, I didn't know that the character was going to come back. So okay, they didn't kill off Madeleine in the pre-title sequence like some of us thought, but this is an alternative way that maybe they would have gotten rid of the character, and I think that would have worked had they'd gone on a different direction and she'd not been seen. So I think that was pretty cool how they do that, because they could have easily have been like, right, that's it. Obviously the link to the kid at the start maybe would show you that there's more to that, but so I thought the way they did that was great. But this is another kind of like a bit of emotion. I think Léa Seydoux's brilliant in this as well. So there's a bit where obviously she gets onto the train and you could see she, as soon as the doors close, she sort of holds her stomach, and it's another nice little nod where obviously we know what it is. Well, we didn't at that point, but James has no idea, Bond has no idea that obviously she's pregnant, and that look that she gives him is, she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant in this. And then you've got the part where the train is sort of slowly going away, and she's looking at James, and James is looking at her, and just so she can keep up with him, she's kind of walking along the carriage, trying to keeping in sort of level with him until the train gets so fast that she just can't, and then he's gone, and then that's it. And then and then so what do you? And then that is the end. After half an hour, whatever it is, that is the end of the pre-titles. So how do you think? What do you think of that scene with the train and Bond and Madeleine, and how do you feel as an ending of a pre-title sequence?
Yeah, well, it's like you've got two minds now, haven't you? The first time you see it, I guess I thought, okay, maybe she is a daughter of Spectre, and there's something else, and the secret is that it's Vesper all over again, and
well,
it's
I thought that when
itself,
I watched it the first time,
which is obviously what Bond's thinking, But then, so there's that. But then once you've seen it before and you know what this is, and you know how gutted he is later when he comes back and says sorry for putting her on the train, it's also like that tugs on the heart a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And especially because she's pregnant as well.
And he didn't trust her. Yeah. But there's that nice line later on where each of them said that the other wasn't programmed to trust, which is completely true. But that's their kind of like their job or their life. That's what's led them to that point, and that's why it's hell on relationships, as a certain Paris Carver would say, because of the influence on everything that's happened. So it's pretty bad. But did you think that was a fitting sort of end to the pre-titles?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. It's like Bond's well and truly back in action now, because I can't remember who it was who said, it might have been David West, I don't know, but he said he felt uncomfortable seeing Bond all loved up. You don't want him to be too happy, you know what I mean? It's uncomfortable. I think it might have been somebody else, I can't remember, but yeah, so it's like we're well and truly back in the game now, and it's like, okay, the call to action has happened and shit's going to go down. So there you go. And then obviously it dissolves into the song. So I guess we should save the song and the title sequence for tomorrow, and we'll chat about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about that one as well.
Absolutely. Cool. All right then. So that about wraps up today's episode of the 30 Days of No Time to Die. Have you got anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Just overall, I guess, out of the three options, it'd be interesting if anyone wants to leave little comments about whether they would have gone for As It Is, or play the Norwegian as a pre-title but extended, or have Matera as the sole part and then have flashbacks of the sort of snow scenes later on. I mean, for me, it is long. It is long, but I still think that the snow scene in Norway, the little mini scene with when she comes up when she's swimming, and then the whole Matera section is all beautifully done, and all great. Length of time for pre-titles is long, but I still think that all of it is brilliant. I really do. And from that point of view, I think it's a killer pre-titles. Even though it's one we're not used to, I still think it's a brilliant one.
That's the thing. I think there's a lot of getting used to things in this film, because there's a lot of things that aren't normal for us. Unexpected, and depending on your feelings, that can be a very good thing, or it can be the opposite. But we'll see how we feel by the end of the 30 days. All right, then. We will be back tomorrow talking about the song and the title sequence. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright.
And JBL will return tomorrow. We'll see you then, everybody.
See you then. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.